Hola, hola. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I see I have 5 viewers, but I can't hear you. Do you guys have microphones, or can you go over here? Let's do screen share. At the top left-hand corner of your screen is a blue box with lines on it, and it says chat. Can you click on that, and it should pull up the chat box over to the right-hand side. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start, and we're going to talk about the preterite versus the imperfect. And one of the things that, oops, I got to make sure I'm sharing my screen with you. Okay. Okay, so for the preterite, we have to remember that the preterite takes care of completed actions in the past tense. Oops. So things that we did, it can be a series of actions. For example, I got in my car, drove to Kroger, bought some ice cream, and returned home. All of those would be in the preterite. The imperfect tense takes care of a couple things that you can always rely on the imperfect tense for, which is time, when you're telling what time it was. For example, eran las 2 de la mañana. Es un ejemplo. The other thing is age. When you're talking about when I was 10 years old, blah 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 happened. Other things that the imperfect takes care of is setting the scene. So background information, weather, what people look like, whoops, sorry, what they were wearing, and most of the time, how they were feeling. Preterite can also take care of emotions in the past tense, but it is a reaction. So at that moment, I believed, yo creí que él me amó. At that moment, I believe that he loved me, for example. Okay, so knowing this, and we've done this in class, so I don't want to harp on it, but knowing this, I want to do some other activities. So for example, let's take English to Spanish. For example, I woke up. Do you think that would be preterite or imperfect? If you said preterite, you are correct. That's a completed action. The difference between I woke up and the imperfect, which would be the imperfect would be I was waking up. So I woke up would be me desperté. And Jeff was showering, whoever Jeff is, I don't know, was showering. So the verb is ducharse. So let's see if you can go ahead and put that into the preterite or the imperfect. You can decide. Okay, so was showering would be se duchaba, because it was an ongoing process in the past tense. It was not a completed action. Number 3, I ate breakfast. Ate, the verb is comer, or tomar, or desayunar, which I show down here. So I ate breakfast is a completed action, which would be the preterite. And the verb would be comí, or desayuné. We went on a tour. So went would be preterite, completed action. The verb would be ir. So fuimos. It was a gorgeous day. So is this preterite or imperfect? Is it describing the scene, the setting? Yes, it is. So era is the verb that you're going to use there. It was sunny. That's also a description. And we have to remember, we don't want English to interfere here with our language, that was sunny is not how we say it in Spanish, is it? We have to use an hacer expression. So we're going to use hacer in the imperfecto. So hacía sol. And there wasn't a cloud in the sky. So no había is the verb we're going to use there. Okay, número 8, we walked. We walked through the park. We're going to use the verb caminar, or andar, or dar un paseo. We walked is preterite because it's a completed action. Imperfect would sound like we were walking through the park. So we walked, caminamos, or dimos un paseo. Number 9, we went to the cathedral. Fuimos, completed action, so preterite. And number 10, we climbed the stairs. So subimos, that's going to be the preterite also. So here you can see we have a series of actions. Action 1, action 2, action 3, that are all taken care of by the preterite. Okay, number 11, that afternoon we ate. The verb is comer, so comimos, or almorzamos because it's ate lunch. You could use either one there. And then I saw, again, preterite, so vi. The girls were dancing. What do you think about that one? If you said imperfect, you are correct. So bailaban. While, now this is one of those clue words, mientras, that usually triggers the imperfect in both conjunctions or both clauses here. So while the boys were playing, and again, this is an ongoing action in the past tense, so that's going to be in the imperfect. And finally, it was cool. Now, this is one of those verbs, was, that it could go either way. In this case, I'm going to choose fue. You might hear a native speaker say era, but usually when a native speaker uses era here, they're going to continue on with the story and tell you more about why it was cool. Okay, muy bien. Let's see how we're doing here. I would like to see if you guys can participate in the group chat over here. So in your left-hand corner of your screen at the top, there's a blue window with lines in it. If you click on that, it should bring up the group chat. And you can introduce yourself in that screen. That would be fantabulous. Okay, we're going to continue on with another practice activity in the Preterite versus Imperfect. It's called El Robo. It's a story about a robbery. And I would recommend that you take notes on this as we go through it. Let's see, let me screen share real quick. Okay. So this is about a robbery, and we're going to go through and figure out what tenses we're going to use here. And I've given you some hints over here on the right-hand side to help remind you so you can figure out whether you're going to use the preterite and imperfect. And the biggest thing between these two tenses is to remember, is it a completed action, or is it an ongoing action in the past tense, or is it setting the scene? So for number one here, time. Time is always imperfect. So go ahead and see if you can figure out what the answer to this would be. Okay. If you said eran, you were right. You are right. If you said era, you're just not remembering that time is plural in Spanish, unless you're talking about 1 o'clock or noon or midnight. Okay. Just like we would say son las 12 de la mañana. Okay, it was windy. This is weather. Again, this is one that is always imperfect. So go ahead and see if you want to try to stay one step ahead of me on this. Okay. So the answer is hacía viento. Next one, we're still setting the scene. So we want to say that there was moonlight. And the verb is I. And in the imperfect, it's había. Había luna. Okay, next one. La casa de los vecinos, blank, grande y vieja. So is this a completed action? Is it weather? Is it time? Is it age? Is it a description? Well, you're right. It's a description. So la casa de los viejos, we're going to use ser here. Era, grande y vieja. And we're still setting the scene here, right? Because we're saying there was a dog, an old dog, sleeping. And even if we weren't setting the scene, this would still be an ongoing action in the past tense. So dormía. De repente, remember this is one of those clue words. De repente un hombre entrar por la ventana. So suddenly a man entered through the window. If you said preterite, you are correct. Entró por la ventana. Siete. El hombre, this is a description, el hombre blank alto y flaco. El hombre era alto y flaco. This is describing how people are in the past tense. What they were wearing, what they look like, is the imperfect. So número ocho, he was wearing a black hat. Llevaba. So this is describing what he was wearing. It's also background setting the scene, so imperfect. Inmediatamente. This is a clue word. We haven't explicitly talked about this in class, but I want you to see if you can figure out if it would be preterite or imperfect. If you said preterite, you are correct. And we can also look at the context of the sentence. So it's saying immediately, llamar a la policía. So llamé a la policía. I'm assuming here that this is the yo form. I called the police. And this is a completed action, right? Because we picked up the phone and we called. Okay, 10. El hombre, he spent 10 minutes in the house. This is a fixed time period. So I want you to remember that line versus dot. The line, which is an ongoing action in the past tense, versus a dot, which is a specific fixed point in time. Well, this 10 minutes tells us exactly that it was only 10 minutes and it's a completed action. So we're going to say pasó, the preterite. Okay. Luego, so then he left with a big bag. That would also be the preterite. Se fue. And you can imagine him just taking off with the bag. Completed action. The imperfect there would sound like he was running away with the bag. But the context tells us that he spent 10 minutes and then he left with the bag. If we wanted to say he was running away with the bag, which some students might argue, and I can certainly see that context, we're probably going to have an interrupting action. He was running away with the bag when the police arrived. But in this case, we don't have an interrupting action that continues on in the sentence, so we're just going to assume that it was a completed action. El hombre, and then he saw the police car. So preterite it is, vio. The police, in a loud voice, said, stop. So in this one would be preterite as well. Dijo, auto. Oh, sorry, that's plural. Dijeron. Because it's los policías. And then 14, el hombre. Let's see. So the police said, stop, in a loud voice, but the man ran in the opposite direction. So corrió en dirección contraria y, ooh, this is a fun verb. He disappeared into the night. So I want you to give that a shot and see if you can figure out how to conjugate that before I give you the answer. It's an ER verb. You're going to use preterite here because it's a completed action. He disappeared. So your verb will look like this. Desapareció. Oops. Así. Okay, there you have the story of El Robo. Okay. I have one more that we can go over, and this is my silly Toby Keith story in the past tense, the one I told in class. So let's review that real quick and see how you guys do with that. Let me share my screen again real quick. Okay, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. So by now you should think, okay, this is time. So it's always imperfect. So eran las 8 de la mañana. Okay, I left my classroom. This would be preterite. Salí de mi aula. Completed action. I went to the office. Completed action. So fui a la oficina. I opened the door. The verb to open is abrir. If you said abrí la puerta, you are correct. I saw Enrique Iglesias. Vi Enrique Iglesias. He was talking to Mrs. Burke. So this is an ongoing action in the past tense, right? He didn't talk. He didn't speak with Mrs. Burke. He was talking with her. So hablaba con la señora Burke. He was really tall and handsome. So this is the description in the past tense. So it would be imperfect. Era muy alto y guapo. He looked at me and said, hello. Me miró y dijo hola. Both of those are completed action. You could turn this into, how will we change the sentence around to have it be an interrupting action where we have a preterite and an imperfect? Well, we could say he was looking at me when he said hello. Or you could say he was saying hello when he looked at me. So both of those would be interrupting actions. But here we have two completed actions. I fainted, which of course I would. Me desmayé. Preterite. I hit my head on the desk and there was a lot of blood. So one of these is preterite and one of these is imperfect. If you said I hit my head on the desk as preterite, you are correct. There was a lot of blood is description, so that would be imperfect in the past tense. So me golpeé la cabeza en el escritorio y había mucha sangre. So here we have, preterite. The last one we have imperfect. Mrs. Burke called 911. La señora Burke llamó 911. So that would be preterite. The EMT arrived. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. ¿Quién será el socorrista? So el socorrista and the verbs llegar, your verb should be llegó. Okay, I woke up. The verb is despertarse. Me desperté. Preterite. The EMT was blonde, strong, and was singing country music. So el socorrista, and if you said this is imperfect because it's description, you are correct. So el socorrista era rubio, fuerte, y cantaba. Cantaba, this was singing right here, is the imperfect. So that's why we're going to have imperfect on both of those, description and an ongoing process in the past tense. I blinked my eyes. This would be preterite. Versus imperfect would sound like I was blinking my eyes. Parpadeé mis ojos. It was Toby Keith. Fue or era Toby Keith. This is one of those verbs that straddles the fence, and it depends on, from the speaker's point of view, whether you want to use fue or era. Like I said in the last one, usually a native speaker, when they say era Toby Keith, then that usually indicates that they're going to tell you more about it here. So either one would be acceptable here. If you talk to somebody from Spain, they'll probably tell you you would use era. If you talk to somebody from Mexico, they would probably tell you fue, or vice versa. What I want you guys to concentrate on are the verbs that are definite, the interrupting actions, your clue words, and describing things in the past tense. Okay, he picked me up. So this would definitely be preterite. Me recogió. He put me in his truck. This would be preterite also. Me puso en su camión. He took me home. Remember, in Spanish, to say to take someone in a car, you're going to use the verb llevar. So, me llevó a mi casa. So this is preterite also. My husband was waiting at the door. Uh-oh. So was waiting is an ongoing action in the past tense, right? So mi marido, mi esposo, mi media naranja, pero mi esposo esperaba a la puerta. He thanked Toby. So preterite, le dio las gracias a Toby. Toby gave me a hug. Again, preterite. Toby me dio un abrazo. It started to rain. Now this one is new. We didn't do this one in class. I added this in. And I want you to think about the difference between it started to rain versus it was starting to rain. One is preterite and one's imperfect. So on this one, if you said preterite, you are correct. Empezó or comenzó a llover. And you might say, but Senora, it's still raining. It's not a completed action. Well, we're not talking about it rained or it was raining. We're talking about whether it was starting to rain or it began to rain. And in this case, the act of starting to rain was over. And chicas, we talked about this in class later on when I was saying there's a big difference between empezaba a llover, that's when you still have time to grab an umbrella or put something over your head so you don't ruin your hair for the day, and empezó a llover, which means that it's raining and you're going to get wet. Okay. As Toby was walking to his truck, my alarm clock rang. Oh, shucks, right? So as he was walking to his truck is an ongoing action in the past tense, and it's unfortunately interrupted by my alarm clock. So mientras Toby caminaba a su camión, mi despertador sonó. The end. Okay. Whoops. All right, guys, that is all I've got for preterite versus imperfect today. I was hoping that you guys would be able to join in and answer these questions, but I can see we have many viewers, but I can't see you and I can't hear you, and I'm not sure how to fix that. So That's all I have for today with Preterite versus Imperfect. Oh, I know one thing I can show you. If you want to go to Schoology, let's do that. If you go to Schoology and we go to, let's say your class page here, and click on, sorry, my computer's a little slow. I've got too many windows open, it looks like. By the way, if you let me know that you were a participant in this class today, I will give you a Buen Español sticker next time we see each other, which I doubt very much it'll be tomorrow. What do you think? It's supposed to be even colder tomorrow, which is unbelievable to me. Anyway, if you go to this folder, and I have to unhide it for you. I'll do that as soon as we get off of here. But in this folder, Unidad Seis, are a lot of practice activities for Preterite versus Imperfect. And believe me, Preterite versus Imperfect takes a lot of practice. So be your own best friend. It's great that you participated today. That's a huge step. And go in and practice on these. There's some that are really difficult, and there's others that are easy peasy. And you'll find that you will get better at it the more that you do practice. So here's the folder, Imperfect versus Preterite. And you will see that there are, there's a folder with practice activities in there. So there's a whole bunch in here. So I've even got them ranked for you. So easier, little effort. This Regs to Riches is fun. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? There's some quizzes in here, self-check quizzes, and Superman, Goldilocks, and the Three Bears. This one here, Superman and Goldilocks, that's a tough one. So once you feel like you've got a handle on it, then try that one. It gives you the answers, so you'll be able to check how you're doing. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy your snow day. Who would have ever thought that we had an entire week off? It's great though. I'm able to catch up on lesson planning and helping you guys. And anyway, so enjoy your day, and I will see you guys soon. Feel free to email me to let me know you were a participant in this class. That's probably easier if you'll go ahead and email me. Then that way I can get you a Buen Español sticker. Okay? Ciao.